And the worst of affairs are really events of matters in terms of creed and worship, as every really events of matter is something that leads humanity astray. And we ask Allah Jalla wa Ala today, on this beautiful day, to protect us from ever going astray and to keep us upon the sirat, that is mustaqim, the straight path. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to be looking at some of the intricacies of wudu and salah. We're going to be looking at how it's to be done. We're going to look at what the different madahib, the different schools of thought have stated about those specific issues of wudu and salah, inshallah ta'ala. And one of the things that we hope is one of the greatest takeaways we hope that you can take away from this workshop today is an expanding of your mind and horizons. Oftentimes, either new Muslims coming in or people being born Muslim from a specific region, we're only taught one way. So when we see that way or we see outside of that way, sometimes we think people are making errors and mistakes and making salah and move the wrong way, inshallah ta'ala. But today that will allow us to see, mashallah, that there is probably more than one way in different situations and in different circumstances according to the different schools of thought, and they each individually have their proof and their evidence for why they do what they do, inshallah ta'ala. Another thing, inshallah ta'ala, as we journey today through the information which we hope we can get through completely, inshallah ta'ala, feel free. I don't want to be up here just lecturing. Feel free as we're going through the different sections, inshallah ta'ala. And if you have a question, feel free to pause it. Feel free to raise your hand. Feel free to jump in, inshallah ta'ala, and ask the question rather than waiting to the end and then we're trying to pedal back, inshallah ta'ala. When we're dealing with the issue, feel free, we can discuss it, we can talk about it, alhamdulillah, mashallah, it's an open session. Okay, so it's not just lecturing and you guys listening, but alhamdulillah, it's about delivering some messages, and mashallah, you guys listening and taking, and then solving whatever doubts or confusions you may have in the process of it as well, mashallah. Okay? So we're going to commence by looking at the wudu, inshallah ta'ala, and literally everything in Islam, once you become a student of knowledge, you'll recognize that all terms Islamically are always going to have a linguistical term and a technical term. Okay, you'll have a linguistical and a technical term. So linguistically, the meaning of wudu means radiance, beauty, because it causes the one who performs it to have spiritual beauty in this life and both spiritual and physical beauty in the hereafter, as we're going to come to see in the ahadith that are talking about wudu, inshallah ta'ala. Technically, it is the prescribed washing and wiping of certain parts of the body in order to achieve ritual purification. So, right, the linguistical meaning, radiance and beauty, it helps to beautify the servant, inshallah, in this life, and both physically and spiritually in the next life. And then technically, it is, mashallah, the act of physically purifying yourself so that you can be ready for wudu, inshallah ta'ala. In terms of the rewards for wudu, there are many. And we're going to mention a few, inshallah ta'ala. And mashallah, when we hear the rewards for wudu, it should do a few things for us. One, cause us or inspire us to really make wudu correctly. Because most of us become habitual human beings. We do things habitually so much, it just becomes, we're accustomed to it, and we're just going through motions. Right? Half of the time we're not even thinking about it. The same thing with our salah. It just becomes habitual and I'm going through motions, and a lot of times I'm not even thinking about it. And really to get to that next spiritual level, right, it has to take heart, mind, and soul. That when you're making wudu, you're understanding that you're beautifying yourself, inshallah. You're understanding that, mashallah, you're preparing yourself for the creator of the heavens and the earth, whom you're about to meet in prayer, inshallah, right? So you begin to shift your mindset and begin to have a different relationship with the acts of worship, right, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rather than just doing them because I know I'm supposed to do them in class. So Yahya, you're related to me from Malik, from Suhail, Ibn Abi Saleh, and these, mashallah, we can share some of this document with you, so you don't have to worry about writing down all the hadith. From his father, from Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, may Allah grant him peace, said, a Muslim slave or a trusting slave does wudu, and as he washes his face, every wrong action that he has seen with his eyelashes leaves with the drops of water that fall from those eyelashes. As he washes his hands, every drop of water or every wrong that he's done falls with every drop of water that as he's washing his hands. As he is washing his feet, every wrong action with which he has used his feet, meaning places that they may have walked to, inshallah ta'ala, with every last drop of water, sins are falling off, inshallah ta'ala, so that he is purified from his wrong actions. So we see, number one, that wudu is not just the act of ritual purification, but that wudu is also an act that helps to remove sin. Sin that you've committed with your eyes, sin that you've committed with your ears, sin that you've committed with your hands, whether that's on swiping on Instagram, typing on Facebook, whatever, the remote control, whatever it may be, inshallah ta'ala, and places you may have gone to with your feet, that Allah ta'ala, through the wudu, He's helping to, mashallah, expiate those sins, right? So now, the question that no one has thought about it is, okay, Imam, should I wet myself as much as I can so that I have a lot of water dripping off because I got a lot of sins? And I got a lot of shortcomings. Should I come out of the bathroom and just drip wet all over the meshed floor because I want those sins to continue to fall, right? These are very real questions. Questions that we've been asked throughout the years, right? Because people are thinking of it and say, listen, I'm trying to straighten me out, right? So we've had those questions, brothers say, can I just let my beard just continue dripping? And it's like, no, you have to take into consideration the masjid and wetting the floor and other people, inshallah ta'ala, right? And this becomes one of our biggest pet peeves, mine anyway as a Muslim, that whenever we enter the Muslim bathroom, that it is as if, I don't know about the sisters' bathroom, but the men's bathroom, it is as if there is a mini pool for kids in there, right? There is just water everywhere, okay? One, and we're going to be covering this, water should not be wasted. Two, the Prophet made wudu with about from here to the bottom, where my fingers are. Between that was what the Prophet used to make wudu. A half a liter, 16 ounces, around there, inshallah ta'ala, okay? Meaning we should be able to make wudu with that much water, right? It's more about making sure that the body parts are wet and not drenched, okay? As long as the body parts are wet, there are no dry spots, alhamdulillah, your wudu is complete, inshallah ta'ala, okay? So again, being conscious that in these rewards, 1 drop, 2 drops, Allah is the one that multiplies how much sin comes off, right? It's not us saying, okay, well, I'm just going to pour the water and just, mashallah, see how many drops I can get off. Allah is the one that multiplies it, inshallah ta'ala, but we always also have to think about those who come after us, right? Especially in the bathroom. If I wet the place up, I should dry the place up as well, because there's going to be someone who comes in after me, inshallah ta'ala, right? And if that person feels harm, and they feel upset, right? The scholars, they even say when you're chewing gum, don't throw it on the floor, because the person who comes behind you and steps on it, they curse you, right? And that person who threw that gum on the floor, right? You're harming someone else in the process, right? These are, mashallah, acts of akhlaq, mashallah, morals, and things of this nature that the Muslims should have. The second hadith, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu reported that Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, verily my nation will be called on the day of resurrection as brightly radiant from the traces of ablution. Whoever among you is able to extend his radiance, then let him do so. So on Yawm al-Qiyamah, the believers are going to be recognized by radiance on their body, meaning their body is going to shine. And that's going to be from the traces of wudu. Okay? The mouth, the face, the head, the arms, the legs, the hands, right? They'll be shining, inshallah ta'ala, on the day of judgment. And then also he says, so he should be able to let him extend his wudu, right? And there's a hadith from Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, or Abu Hazim, that he says, I was standing behind Abu Hurairah. And Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu was performing wudu. And he extended the washing so that he went all the way up to his armpit. Okay? I said to him, Ya Aba Huraira, what type of ablution is this? You know, we know to the elbow, and why are you going all the way up to your armpit? He said, oh, tribe of Farouk, you are here. Meaning I didn't notice that you were watching. He says, if I knew that you were here, I would never have performed wudu in this manner. He says, but I have heard my friend, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, say, in a believer, adornment would reach the places where ablution reaches, inshallah. Meaning, he wanted to extend his radiance as far high as possible, inshallah. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he also narrated that the Prophet said that the Messenger of Allah went to Al-Baqi', which is the cemetery next to the Prophet's Masjid. And he said that you be secured from punishment, O dwellers of the abode of the believers. Insha'Allah ta'ala, if Allah wills, we are soon to follow. He says, then I said, I wish to see my brothers. So the companions of the Messenger of Allah, just to show you how they were always thinking. Right? They weren't just listening to words, they were thinking about what words mean. The Prophet said, I wish to see my brothers. So the companions said, Ya Rasulullah, are we not your brothers? Right? Because aren't we brothers in Islam? Are we not your brothers? And he says, no, you are my companions. He said, but my brothers are those who have not yet come into the world. They said, O Messenger of Allah, how will you recognize those of your ummah who are not born yet? He said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, say if a man has a white-footed horse with white foreheads among horses that are pure black, will he not recognize his own horses? They said, certainly, O Messenger of Allah. He said, they, my followers, will come with their faces bright, their limbs white because of wudu, and I will arrive at Al-Kawthar, the pool given to the Prophet ahead of him. And this hadith is found in Muslim. So subhanAllah, again, the hadith gives us, mashallah, a bushra, a glad tidings. That the Prophet ﷺ, he was saying, I'm anxious to meet whom? All of you. Right? Because you are the brothers and sisters that he has yet to see, but he will recognize because of the traces of wudu, inshaAllah ta'ala. It was also narrated that Thawban, radiallahu anhu, said, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, adhere to righteousness, even though you will not be able to do all acts of virtue. And know that the best of your deeds is the prayer. The best of your deeds is the salah. And that no one maintains his ablution except a believer. So maintaining wudu is a sign of Iman and a sign that we are from among the believers, inshallah ta'ala. Hadith by Imam. The last hadith in this section, it was narrated that Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, he narrated that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, whoever performs wudu and does it well, then says after the wudu, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wahdahu la sharika lah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh, wa one hadith, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. I bear witness that there is no God worthy of worship except Allah, and that Muhammad is his slave and messenger, that the 8 gates of paradise will be opened for them, and that they will be able to enter through whichever gate they wish. SubhanAllah. So we see a great reward, because we know that SubhanAllah, there was a time when the Prophet ﷺ was talking about the 8 gates of Jannah, and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was asking, like, is there going to be anyone who's going to enter from all of them? Right? Because you know you have the gate of fasting, the gate of salah, right? SubhanAllah. And here is, mashallah, a simple way, mashallah, to be able to be for those who get to enter the all 8 gates. Right? So mashallah, the body parts are going to shine, your qiyamah is going to be light. You have, mashallah, ta'ala, your sins are falling off as you're doing the actions of wudu. And mashallah ta'ala, the 8 gates of paradise are open for those who make, mashallah, the shahada or state the shahada after the wudu, inshallah ta'ala. We now move on to the intention of wudu. And intention is always a big thing, right? Alhamdulillah, for those of you who have been in Mass for years, intention is always mentioned over and over again. Based on the hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَىٰ فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ لِدُنْيَا يُصِيبُهَا أَوْ امْرَأَةٍ يَنكِحُهَا فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى مَا هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِ. That the Prophet said, indeed all actions are judged by intention, right? And every person is going to be what they intend. Whoever's intention is Allah and His Messenger, they will have Allah and His Messenger. And whoever's intention is to get married to a woman, then they will have just that marriage to a woman and maybe nothing else, right? SubhanAllah. So we see that SubhanAllah, intention is huge. So now the scholars debate the issue on how do we look at intention. And do we have to verbalize our intention? Meaning now, I'm going to make wudu, and I say, I'm going to make wudu for Salat al-Dhuhr, 4 raka'ah, Bismillah. Or I'm going to pray 4 raka'ah of Salat al-Asr, Bismillah. Right? Do I verbalize my intention now? So Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he was asked the same question about the intention and whether one has to verbalize the intention for prayer or not, and utter it for fasting, prayer, wudu, and the like. And he replied that the intention of purifying oneself, making wudu, ghusl, tayammum, salah, fasting, right, zakat, kafarat, expiations for anything that you need to make expiations for, inshallah, or any other act of worship does not need to be uttered. That according to the consensus, and when we use the word consensus, we're talking about the majority of the scholars, right? In the majority of the schools of fiqh, there's a consensus, meaning they all agree upon this, right? They agree that the consensus is that the intention is inside of the heart. Okay? That as you are going to make the wudu, inshallah ta'ala, that is already your intention that I'm going to make wudu. That when you stand for salah, you showed up to the masjid, you walked to the masjid, mashallah, you made wudu, mashallah, you followed the imam, the adhan, the zin, mashallah, the words behind the imam, then you stand up for the iqamah, all of that was part of your intention in your heart to make that particular salat, and you don't have to verbalize that intention specifically. But there is a difference in opinion. So you have some Shafi'i scholars within the Shafi'i madhab that they express that it is approved of uttering the intention, inshallah ta'ala, but then within the same madhab of the Shafi'i madhab, others within the madhab disagreed and said, no, the intention doesn't have to be verbalized, okay? And what they did was that they mentioned that it is more as a recommendation and as an assistant to the heart to avoid formulating intentions that are free of neurotic mistakes, right? Meaning in your mind, maybe you're thinking of something, you know, your mind is just all over the place. So I verbalize my intention to straighten out what I have in my mind, right? So they quote Imam Nawawi as saying, the niyyah, the intention is within the heart, and pronouncing it before saying the takbir, Allahu Akbar for the salah, right? It is recommended mandub, but it is not an obligation, okay? So again, this for us, the majority, the consensus is no, the intention is in the heart, inshallah ta'ala, and then for a very small group of Shafi'i followers and Shafi'i scholars, they say that the intention is okay to mention, but as recommended, inshallah ta'ala. Wadah, clear? Okay. So then we get into the description of the wudu. And then after the description, we'll be looking at what is mandatory in the wudu and what is recommended. And this is very important. So the description, of course, we begin by saying Bismillah. Okay? You would wash your hands up to the wrists 3 times, including the wrist and passing the wrist up, inshallah ta'ala. Fingers, the whole 9 yards, right? Each hand 3 times. Rinse the mouth and nose 3 times. And we know that with the mouth and nose, there are 2 methods. There are the mouth and nose separate. I rinse my mouth 3 times. I rinse my nose 3 times. Or I rinse my mouth and my nose together 3 times. in just one shot. Some water in the mouth, some water in the nose, out, spit. Okay? You have options on how you want to do that based on whether it's comfortable and or if you have the ability, inshallah ta'ala. Washing the face 3 times from the hairline to the bottom of the chin, from ear to ear, inshallah ta'ala. All of this consists of the face. And for brothers who got beards like mine, when running the fingers through the beards, inshallah ta'ala, making sure that the water touches the skin underneath your beard, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? Number 5, washing the hands up to the forearms, from the hands to the forearms, including the elbows and passing the elbows, inshallah ta'ala, not forgetting the elbows. Number 6, wiping the head from the forelock, which is considered ear, to the nape of the neck, which is where your hairline on the back of your neck stops. So it's basically once back, once forward. In some cultures, they do like this. This is not found in the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah. There are no authentic hadith for wiping the neck in this fashion. Okay? Something that has come through from cultures and things of this nature. But the hadith mentioned is here, back to the front, and then including the ears. Inside the ears and behind the ears, inshallah ta'ala. And the Prophet ﷺ said, the ears are part of the head. Right? And we'll be taking it. Number 7, washing the feet. And of course, just like the hands that include the wrists, the feet include the ankle bone, and going up and above past the ankle bone, and putting your fingers in between your toes, inshallah ta'ala. Getting water in between the toes, top, bottom of the foot, and making sure that you get your ankles, inshallah ta'ala, as well. So making sure that the entire foot is covered and it is wet. If you have socks on, or if you have shoes on, and you're going to practice mess, which is the wiping, then the wiping is done over the top of the shoe and not the bottom of the shoe, or the top of the sock and not the bottom of the sock. And we're going to get into the wiping and what that consists of, inshallah. Okay? So again, this is all based on a hadith from Quran, the man, the slave of Uthman, where Uthman called for water to perform ablution. He washed his palms of his hands 3 times, then rinsed his mouth and slipped water in his nose, and then blew it out. Then he washed his face 3 times. Thereafter he washed his right hand up to the elbow 3 times, then the left one likewise. Then he passed his wet hands on his head. Then he washed his right foot up to the ankle 3 times, and then the left one likewise. And afterwards he said, I saw the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam perform ablution in this matter, and the hadith is agreed upon by Bukhari and Muslim, making the hadith extremely strong and muttafaq alayh. Okay? So now, what are the mandatory acts of wudu? Okay? In the mandatory acts of wudu, if these acts are left out, your wudu is invalidated. Okay? If these acts are not done, you don't have wudu. So the first is the intention. Okay? Intention. Number 2, washing each body part at least once. Right? We have other hadith where the companions in the Prophet ﷺ showed that they washed 1 time, they washed twice, and they washed 3 times. 3 times being the most complete, inshallah ta'ala, 1 time being the least that it can be done, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? But then there's a different teaching that says, can I wash my hands 1 time all of the time? Yes or no? Does anybody know? Can I wash my hands 1 time all of the time? Yes or no? Or is there an exception to the rule? And what is the exception to the rule? No one? Excellent. When you wake up. There's a hadith from Abu Hurairah who says, when anyone amongst you wakes up from sleep, he should wash his hands 3 times before putting his hand in the utensils, for he or she does not know where the hand has been during the sleep or during the night. Okay? Meaning sometimes we touch ourselves at night, however it may be, we don't know where our hands have been, inshallah ta'ala. And as we're going to come to see, that for some scholars, if you touch your private area, right, it invalidates your wudu for certain schools of thought. But we'll get to that. Right? So the Prophet is telling us that when we wake up, meaning Salatul Fajr, the hands have to be 3 times washed, everything else can be once. So only time that the hands has to be 3 times. Or whenever you're waking up from a nap or sleeping in the lights, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? Outside of that, if you're going to wake all day, then the minimum is once for each body part, inshallah ta'ala. Number 3, wiping over the head 1 time, right? Not 3 times. And Ibn Qudamah, he emphasized the entirety of the head, and other schools of fit, they said part of the head suffices, okay? But to play on the safe side, right, and better to err on the side of caution, the entire head is best to wipe over the entire head. Number 4, doing all of this in the sequence that has been mentioned, okay? So I can't start with my hands, and then jump to my feet, and then jump to my mouth and nose, and then jump to my ears, right? It has to be done in the sequence in which the Prophet ﷺ has taught, okay? Number 5, not delaying washing any other part of the body so that as another part of the body dries, right? So by the time you finish your wudu, all of your body parts that you made wudu should still be wet, right? And then you dry it afterward, inshallah ta'ala, right? But if I did my hands, and by the time I get to my head, my hands are already dry, or my arms are already dry, it means that I'm not using enough water, right? It means that I may just be passing just enough to kind of wet my skin, but it's drying in the process even faster than I can finish my wudu, okay? So you will be wet to the point that you finish and complete your entire wudu, inshallah, okay? So again, those 5 were intentional, washing each part at least once, except for when you wake up. Number 3, the entire head. Number 4, the sequence. And then number 5, inshallah ta'ala, not allowing a body part to dry before the wudu is finished. Now, the recommended acts of wudu. If you leave one of these acts, your wudu is not invalid. Okay? Mentioning the name of Allah. Saying Bismillah is from the recommended acts and not an obligation. So according to the Hanbalis, the Malikis, and the Shafi'is, it is mandatory based on the hadith, and they're going to differ, that the Messenger of Allah said the prayer of a person who does not perform ablution is not valid, and the ablution of a person who does not mention the name of Allah in the beginning is not valid. And this hadith is by Abi Dawud and authenticated by Shaykh al-Albani. Right? So here's where you begin to see how the scholars differ and why they differ. So here, the Hanbalis, Malikis, and Shafi'is are saying we have this hadith, and based on this hadith, if you don't say Bismillah, you will lose in that, okay? So he says, but within the same schools of thought, there are also 2 opinions regarding if one forgets to say Bismillah in the beginning, and they say that they need to start the wudu from the beginning again if they forget to say Bismillah. The second, they say they make the Bismillah in the middle whenever they remember, meaning I forgot to say it, Alhamdulillah, just like when I forget to eat, right? Alhamdulillah, when I forget to eat. When I forget to say Bismillah when I eat, I can say at the end of eating, in the middle of eating, Bismillah, awwalahu wa akhiruhu. Bismillah in the beginning and at the end, and it covers me for the entire time, inshallah. So the same goes, some of the scholars say, for wudu. In the lesser opinion within the Hanbali school, and the difference of opinion within the Hanbali school by other schools, meaning the Maliki, Hanafi, and Shafi'is, is that the Bismillah or the Bismillah for wudu is only recommended, okay? And in the 4th opinion, they cite the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ was referring, saying there is no perfect versus there is no balance, okay? So they're saying how we understand the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said if you don't say Bismillah, you don't have wudu, that what they took away from that hadith was not that the Prophet ﷺ is saying you lose your wudu and it becomes invalidated, it means you don't have perfect wudu, right? But that your wudu is still valid, inshallah. So if you miss the Bismillah, right, those scholars say the wudu is still valid, you just don't have the perfection of that wudu, inshallah. And Dr. Hasan al-Hajj, he commented on this, stating, because the Quran did not mention saying the name of Allah, and none of the reports describing the wudu of the Prophet mentioned that he started by saying Bismillah, this is why it is looked at as recommended. Right? The Prophet whenever describing the wudu, he didn't say start with Bismillah, do your hands, right, clean your mouth. He said start with washing your hands. When Allah Ta'ala gives you the ayah in Surah Al-Ma'idah, He starts with, mashallah, the actions and not the sunnah. Right? And because of this is why the scholars differ, saying that it is not wajib or obligatory versus being recommended, inshallah ta'ala. Number 2 from the recommended acts are washing with your hands. Okay? The only time it becomes mandatory is when you wake up from sleep. Outside of that, washing with your hands are recommended. Number 3, perfecting the rinsing of the mouth, washing the mouth and the nose, letting it hit as far back as one as possible, except when one is fasting. Number 4, running the fingers through the wet beard and the inner part of the toes. Number 5, wiping the ears is recommended, but for the Hanbalis, the Malikis, and the Shafi'is, they say because the ears are part of the head, then it is mandatory, okay? And then number 6, beginning with the right parts before the left. So we know that the Prophet ﷺ, whenever he did an action, he would always start with his right side. He put on his shoes, he put on the right one first. He combed his hair, he combed it from his right side first. Right? He put on his clothes, he put his right arm in first before he put his left arm in. So with the wudu, he would start with his right, and then he would move on to his left. When he showered, he would do the right side before he would do the left side, inshallah ta'ala. Alright? And then number 7, from the recommended things are washing 3 times and more is disliked and a waste of water. Again, the Prophet ﷺ would make wudu with a liter of water. Okay? About 16 ounces of water, inshallah ta'ala. One of the things we don't want to do is get into habits as well. Of negative habits. Meaning what? Many times you may hear, okay, mandatory, recommended, I just get my hands today. I'm feeling lazy. So I'm just going to go ahead and do my nose and my feet, do those things that are mandatory and keep it moving, right? The wudu is valid, right? But we should always try to perfect the wudu. Why? Huh? Please love, but why? Other than just please love. That's too simple of an answer. You should deal. How? What reward? The reward only comes from Allah. Radiance in after. What else? You did last time we made with doing? Being khushu' in salah? Not really. It's not going to give you any khushu' in salah. Not going to be more khushu' in salah. Just speak up a little bit. I used to listen to loud music when I was younger.
Your sins strip more?
Your sins strip more. Alhamdulillah, so we have radiance. We have the dripping of the sins. And following the sunnah is always a great thing. Yes, absolutely. Yusuf? Huh? Cleansiness? Still doing partial cleanliness, right? We've got partial cleanliness. So we want to perfect what we do for the rewards. Right? We want, mashallah, our sins to fall off. We want our body parts to radiate. Right? I don't want to come here with piyama and I see, you know what I mean, mashallah, I see Yusuf and I'm like, man, you only used to make wudu on one hand, brother. Right? That other hand is dull. You one is shining, the other one is not shining, right? It's like taking half a bath, right? I wash my right side and I get out the shower, I do the left side another day, right? Alhamdulillah, we want to get ahead, complete the wudu, alhamdulillah, and just learn these things help us in case we make mistakes, right? I come out of the wudu and I line up for prayer. And I say, SubhanAllah, I forgot to run my fingers through my beard. I gotta go back to the wudu. No, you don't have to. The wudu is still valid. Inshallah, you can go ahead and pray, right? I forgot to wash my 2 hands tonight. The wudu is still valid. You don't have to go pray. And this is amazing, especially for people who suffer from OCD, right? Because you have brothers and sisters who come up to us who part of their OCD is that they forget. By the time they get to their feet, they say, man, SubhanAllah, did I do my elbows? But now we had one brother, mashallah, bless him, brother, mashallah. He was bipolar and he had OCD and had some different things going on with him. He would come out of the bathroom soaking wet. Literally soaking. He was one of those that he would walk out somewhere and he's like, Imam, am I done? Right? But it was because he made it like 50 times. Because he would forget if he would do his feet, he would forget if he would do his elbow, and then he would go back and do it all over again. Right? SubhanAllah. And he wouldn't dry up, right? So for those cases of OCD, when you learn these rules and regulations, it's like, no, it's okay, brother. Alhamdulillah, you've covered, mashallah, the mandatory acts. You can come out of the bathroom and you can go make salat and do his valid, inshallah.
So if you forget a step while you're performing the routine, you have to redo everything again, right?
You don't have to, it's recommended, right? It's not a big deal. But you can go back. I would recommend you go back to that step and then you start from that step all over again. Why? Because the order, right? The sequence and how it's mentioned, inshallah. Because again, we don't want to get into the habit of, okay, no big deal, let's just walk away, inshallah.
When you go back to what you did, or continue on, or when you go back to the routine?
So because of the sequence, you go back to what you missed and then continue from there. Right? Just like in your salat, and we'll come to it later on. If I'm praying salat and I miss I'm in my second raka'ah, right, and I miss ruku for some reason, I was just out of it, I forgot to bow. I will go back to the bowing, right? Or I will go back to the beginning when I stand up the next, I will stand up the next slide. If I can't go back to the bowing, I will stand up for the next raka'ah, and I will start that raka'ah all over again, right? Making that my second raka'ah all again because I missed the bowing, inshallah. Gia.
What are the stipulations behind writing the top?
We're getting there. We're going to come to that next, inshallah. Sisters, any questions? I take it. So this is mandatory. Yeah, washing your hands 3 times after sleep is mandatory, inshallah. Okay. Shouldn't cook your food, shouldn't do anything without washing your hands 3 times, inshallah. So now, when you get looking at wiping over the socks. So it says permissible to wipe over, and whenever you look at the hadith, right, socks didn't really exist at that time. Right, socks are a new, mashallah, creation during our time period, however long back it goes, right? But during that time, they used to wear what? Leather socks. Okay? Leather socks that came way past the ankle bone. If you look at leather socks, they probably come up to you. Okay? Easy. Okay, so when they mention the khuf, they're talking about the leather socks. So now, the scholars have to look at what's called fiqh al-nawaz, right? The issues of modern day times. Okay, I have socks, I have thick socks, I have thin socks. How does this all equate? Is it equal to wearing a khuf? The khuf has a hard leather bottom, almost like a shoe. The socks don't have a hard leather bottom, almost like a shoe. Are they the same? Are they not the same? And the likes, okay? So he says it's permissible to wipe over leather socks and whatever resembles them. Like thick socks that stay on the feet, meaning they just don't come off the foot, and shoes that reach above the ankle, and this is all for minor ablution, not for ghusl. Okay, so ghusl is something different. We're talking about regular wudu now, inshallah. So according to the Hanbalis, the Malikis, and the Shafi'is, they say the socks likely refer to any footwear that looks like the leather socks, the khuf. And they bring the hadith narrated on Mughira ibn Shu'bah, the Messenger of Allah wiped over the socks. And this hadith is found in Dawud. But Ibn Mundar, he also said the permissibility of wiping over the socks was narrated from 9 companions. Okay? Of the Messenger of Allah, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Ammar ibn Yasir, Abu Mas'ud, Anas ibn Malik, Ibn Umar, Al-Bara ibn Azib, Bilal, Abu Umama, and Sahal ibn Sa'd. Meaning these major companions have narrated it, and this is why we wipe over our socks, meaning it is a practice. And I have to stress that why, because there are certain people who don't hold on to this practice at all. They look at it as you should never wipe over your shoe or wipe over your socks, it's not permissible. What are you doing? You should always make wudu on your feet, okay? Number 2 is the ruling on the thickness of the socks. So the Hanbalis, the Malikis, and the Shafi'is, you already know that this kind of 3 groups, they kind of stay together a lot, inshallah. They say that the socks do not have to have leather bottoms, but they should be thick. And then they say there are 2 descriptions of thick socks. The ones that stay on the feet while you're walking, you just don't put on your fall off, right? Alhamdulillah. And then the ones that don't show the complexion of your skin, meaning they're not thin enough where you can see the complexion of your skin, okay? So either they're thick, they don't fall off, or two, they don't show the complexion of your skin underneath them. And even, he says, even if you place water on them, okay? He says, adding to that, Imam he says, our companions narrated from Omar and from Ali that it is permissible to wipe over the socks even if they are very thin. Okay, so Umar ibn Khattab, Ali, the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, and other two big companions, they said even if the socks are thin, it's permissible to wipe over the feet. And lastly, Ibn Uthaymeen, who is a modern day contemporary scholar who passed away in the late 90s, Allah have mercy on him, he states that thin socks should have the same ruling as thick socks, right? So we're going to see this debate all the time in our masajid, right? But being people of knowledge, that debate should never fall into our hands. We respect people, inshallah ta'ala, right? You may go into a Pakistani masjid and all of a sudden you have to do things, thin socks have and your wife makes a connection like you're crazy. And what are you doing, right? SubhanAllah. Again, respecting that this is found within the books of knowledge, inshallah ta'ala. The brother has, even some of the scholars state, even if the socks have holes in it, it's okay to still wipe over them if that's the person's situation that they can't afford to have socks without holes, then they're able to wipe over those socks as well. Okay? But now there's another condition. In order to wipe over my socks have to cover my ankle bone. Okay? If my socks don't cover my ankle bone, meaning if my sock only comes to mid-ankle bone, it's not enough. It has to come past the ankle bone, right? And then that's the only time I can wipe over my sock, inshallah. Okay? Anything under the ankle bone or in the middle of the ankle bone does not qualify for wiping over your sock. Same with your shoes. If you're a person who doesn't wear socks, when you put your shoes on without socks, the same thing. Tennis sneakers that come under the ankle bone, you can't wipe over your socks. And you can't wipe over your shoes. It has to come over your ankle bone at least in inshallah. Okay? The second issue, in order for me to be able to wipe over my socks, I had to put them on in a state of wudu. Meaning I had to make wudu first, and then I put my socks on after that, and then after that I can wipe over my socks inshallah ta'ala. But if I put on my socks and I left the house without wudu, and I got to the masjid, and I broke my wudu on the way to the masjid, and I have to make wudu, now I have to what? I have to take the socks off. I have to take my socks off, make wudu on my feet, and then from that point forward, I can now make wudu over my socks, inshallah. Alright? So, what is the duration of wiping over the socks? The scholars, they state, I can wipe over my socks if I'm a resident and then I live in the area. I can wipe over my socks for up to 24 hours. Right? I can break my wudu for 24 hours and wipe over my socks. Once that 24-hour period is up, I have to take my socks off and I have to renew my wudu on my feet. Okay? For the traveler, it is up to 72 hours, 3 days. I have that I can wipe over my socks, inshallah ta'ala. And that's some serious travel. So you get to see the difference between those traveling in the past and us traveling in the present. Most people don't keep their socks on for 3 days in a row, right? It would be atrocious probably when you take them off afterwards, right? But this was the reality of back in the day, right? SubhanAllah, they had to travel long, horse, camel, through the desert. You know what I mean? It just wasn't just changing like that, inshallah, okay? And it's all relevant. Who knows? Right? We made Umrah and we were traveling like 20-something, we were traveling maybe close to 30 hours. Right? SubhanAllah. Right? Before you actually got to your hotel and are able to, mashallah, finally get your feet out of your shoe. So mashallah, in that instance, yes, I can still continue practicing wiping over my shoes for those 30 hours, those 35 hours, while I'm on that trip on Umrah, inshallah, ta'ala, making all of these stops along the way. I don't have to take my socks off, okay? Number 3, that if the period ends, or he takes his footwear off, then his purity becomes invalid. Meaning, my 24-hour period is up, I can no longer wipe over my shoe. The second is, the scholars state, If I've taken my shoe off or my sock off, some of them state, khalas, it's becoming valid, and now I can't have to bring my wudu. And we're going to get into that one, inshallah, okay? Number 4, in order to wipe on the sock, you must have put them on in the state of wudu, and we mentioned that, inshallah. Okay. So now, the issue of taking the sock off. Right? Looking at now, if I take my sock off, I lose my wudu, and I have to remake wudu before I put them on, even though I didn't lose my wudu. I didn't violate any of the 7 categories of losing my wudu, inshallah ta'ala. All I did was take my sock off in a pure state still. So according to the Hanbalis and the Shafi'is, taking them off nullifies this. And it must be repeated in wudu because the reason of concession is no longer present. Right? You took them off for a reason. Possibly because something happened that allowed you to take your socks off. 2, a lesser opinion within the Hanbali school of thought, and the opinion of the Hanafis and the Malikis is that they only need to wash their feet after taking them off. So after you take off your socks, that you need to wash your feet, and that washing of the feet allows you to keep your wudu, and you can put your socks back on without having to remake your wudu, inshallah. Number 3, the Malikis also state if they fail to wash their feet immediately, meaning as soon as they take them off, then they must redo their wudu. So they add that extra layer of condition. Okay, they have the condition that yes, you have to wash your feet, but the Hanafis say you can wash your feet whenever, as long as you don't lose your wudu. The Malikis say no, as soon as you take your shoes or your socks off, you have to wash your feet immediately, inshallah, if you want to keep your wudu on and continue to wipe over the socks. Number 4, the Zahiris, which is another school of thought, and the opinion or the choice of Ibn Taymiyyah is that taking off the socks does not nullify the wudu, and they say that there is also no need to wash the feet. So they take a whole different angle, saying you don't have to wash them, and it doesn't break your wudu, inshallah ta'ala. And what they said was there is no clear proof that purity becomes invalidated with the removal of socks and or the turban, right? Because the turban is like the socks. If I make wudu and I put my turban on my head, you know how long it takes to wrap that thing around your head, right? Same thing with the sisters with the hijab. She puts on her, makes wudu and she puts on her hijab. They are allowed to wipe over the khimar, right? You are allowed to wipe over the turban, inshallah ta'ala, and they have the same conditions, inshallah ta'ala, okay? So here he's saying, there's no proof. So in order for me to say it has broken my wudu, I need what? I need a statement from Allah, or I need a hadith from the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, right? And this is why it's important that as you're learning and you're interacting and engaging with people going through these different things, if people say, brother, you're supposed to take your socks off, we say, okay, what's your proof? Right? I need hadith, I need Quran. If you can't give me hadith or Quran, then that means I don't follow you, brother, right? Because inshallah, it's not just based on our opinions and whatever we think. It's based on Quran and Sunnah, and this is how we move, inshallah, and think, okay? So, Bukhari also reported that the statement of Hassan al-Basri, he says if one cuts his hair, clips his nails, or takes off his leather socks, then there is no wudu on him. We know that Hassan al-Basri, inshallah, was also an amazing scholar of his time, inshallah, okay? So they also talk about here the description of wiping over the shoes. And again, we talk about it, they mentioned wiping over the tops and not the bottom, right? And this is the statement of Ali that he was, that as he was doing wudu, he wiped over his shoes. And then he said, if I had not seen the Messenger of Allah doing what you have seen me do, I would have thought that the bottoms of the feet were more deserving to be wiped over than the tops. Why? Because I'm walking with the bottom of my shoe. So naturally the dirt is going to be on the bottom, right? But this is why there's a principle in Islam, and we can write this down. Al-Naql, N-A-Q-L, Al-Naql, Ala, A-L-A, Al-Aql, over A-Q-L. Right? N-A-Q-L, over A-Q-L. 2 Arabic words. Al-Naql means the revelation. The revelation over Al-Aql, over intellect. Right? So we're always taking the revelation over intellect, inshallah ta'ala, meaning we're going back to the Quran and the Sunnah for everything. It's not, okay, well, this makes sense to me, so I'm going to do it this way instead. It may make sense to you, but maybe it's not the right way, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? Nullifiers of wudu. Nullifiers of wudu. Go for it. Because you have your socks on your foot. Yeah, absolutely.
And you can't wipe over your socks because you're at home. This is only when you're outside.
No, you can wipe as a resident. You have 24 hours. At home is part of your residence, so you can still wipe over your socks while you're at home. Yeah. Yes. So from the time you start wiping to the time you finish your job. Gio.
Is there like a theme on, okay, if you're at home, could you wipe over socks for convenience, or should you have like a certain reason?
No, you can wipe over it as the rules. Right? These are mashallah injunctions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us to make the deen easy for us. Right? Yasilu wala tu'assir, the Prophet said, right? Make things easy or make them difficult. There's no need, if you're going to walk around the house holding your socks on, you're just that person, mashallah, or it's winter time, and you like to keep your feet warm at home, alhamdulillah, you can wipe over your socks. You don't have to take the socks off every time, you put them back on, alhamdulillah. You fall on the category of residence, and then alhamdulillah, you got 24 hours to do that, inshallah. Okay? It's ease, right? Same thing when you're traveling, right? The ease that Prophet gave us, and Allah gave us, is that we're able to shorten the salah. Some people say, oh, no, I'm not going to shorten my salah, I'm going to go ahead and make the full thing. You know what I mean? I got to give Allah his rights. The Prophet was better than you and I or not? He was better than us, right? He shortened the salah when he traveled. Right? SubhanAllah. Right? So when we look at these things, we have to really be careful of what those things mean. Right? Even when it came time to go to Umrah one time, a man wanted to put on his Umrah, his gear, before the miqats. And Imam Malik saw him, and Malik said, what are you doing? He says, I want to elongate my barakah. And Imam Malik looked at him and said, are you better than the Messenger of Allah? The Messenger of Allah put it on at the miqat, he put it on at the miqat. Right? There's no need for you to put it on before, unless there's necessity, right? Alhamdulillah, we know that now, the miqat is like 20 minutes from the hotel. A lot of times, brothers get dressed in the hotel, and then they kind of jump on the bus and they do that 20-minute ride. No problem, there's necessity. Because it may be difficult once you get to the base to change, you're trying to got time limits and time restrictions, all of these other things are something else. Versus the person who doesn't have those restrictions and says, you know what, I just want to do this because I want extra reward, extra barakah. When there's no hadith and there's no ayah saying you're going to get extra reward, extra barakah, anything. Right? You stuff up, making it up in your head. Right? You have to be careful of that, inshallah. Okay? Any other questions in that regard? Right? Alright. So things that nullify your wudu. Anything that exits both private parts, front or back, male and female. Okay? They include within this, the majority include within this worms and stones. Okay? Break your wudu. And Malikis and Bahis, they exclude the worms and the stones. So we're talking about urine, feces, passing wind, medi, wedi. You guys know what medi is? Medi is the light pre-seminal fluid. It is the clear pre-seminal fluid. Okay, if that comes out, you need to make wudu. Wedi is actually the thick seminal fluid, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? Menstrual blood and postpartum menstrual blood, meaning the bleeding that the woman does after having a baby, inshallah ta'ala. All of those things break your wudu, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? Impure discharges from elsewhere in the body, if they are excessive enough to be repulsive. Okay, this is one opinion in the school that they break the wudu. Okay? But the Hanbalis and the Hanafis, they say it has to be in large amounts. So for instance, they talk about blood. The man may say, or that question, if I'm bleeding, does that break my wudu? So there are many narrations from the companions that during the time of war, they would be shot with an arrow, the pull the arrow out, you know you're going to be bleeding more than just a little bit once that's done, and they still would make salat and not remove their blood. Okay? Showing that amount of blood was still permissible for them. The same thing with pus and the lights. They also give the hadith of Umar ibn Zubayr reported with Fatima, the daughter of Abu Qays, that her blood kept flowing, so that, and this is from her menstrual blood, so the Prophet said to her, when the blood of the menses comes and it is black blood, which can be recognized, right, one refrains from prayer. But when it is a different type that comes from ablution, anyone can pray, okay, for it, because there's only a vein that has been struck. So they have the different in the coloration, the women in terms of the menstrual blood, and basically this is really knowing her cycle. Her cycle is usually 7 days, it's usually 10 days, 5 days, whatever her cycle usually is. Right, outside of that cycle, maybe she continues to bleed, and now it's light in color, right, it's not that dark in color, and this is considered the vein that was hit, inshallah ta'ala, and she can make wudu and perform prayer during that time, inshallah ta'ala, okay? The third category that they mentioned is loss of intellect, and here they include sleep, but it excludes, does not include light sleep. Anyone knows the difference between light sleep and heavy sleep? Islamically? You're not unaware of your surroundings. Okay, so I'm in the masjid and I'm in the but I still hear the brothers talking about me. Brother, why are you talking about me? And I see, right? I was awake, I came, right? Alhamdulillah, there's no need to make wudu. But when you see those brothers, they be like, you know what I mean? It's like they about, you know, gotta go catch them, right? Alas, that means you went into a state of sleep where you don't know what's going on around you, then you have to remove the wudu in that state of sleep, inshallah ta'ala. And then they include within this category 3 more, and they say comas, insanity, and intoxication. Intoxication because you don't know what you're doing, right? Sanity, right? Insanity because we know the pen is lifted from the person who's insane until they reach a state of sanity, okay? And then coma, basically, the scholars differ when it comes to comas and the likes, especially when it comes to making up your salat. Do I have to make up my salat if I was in a coma for 10 years? Right? Do I have to pray every salat that I missed 5 times a day for the last 10 years? Some scholars will say yes, other scholars say no. All you do is make up the salats that you missed that day when you woke up. Okay, if you missed 3 salats that day when you woke up, those are the ones that you make. You can only imagine 10 years of salat 5 times a day. You were in a coma, you wake up, you're going to have to go into another coma of salat because you're going to be praying for the next few days, right? Or weeks. Yeah. So again, the concession, right? The concession that makes things easy and don't make things difficult, inshallah. Number 4, in terms of nullifiers of wudu, the man touching his male private part. And this includes as well the female touching her external private organ as well. And then they give different categories for this. They say touching one's own or that of their partners, and this includes touching the children when it happens in terms of bathing. Okay, so they say touching your own, your wife or your husband, or your children when you're bathing them, that this will nullify your wudu and you have to do wudu. Okay? Category C in here, they include 3 of the schools, Malikis, Hanbalis, and Shafis. They include the anus as well. Touching the anus will nullify your wudu for that school of thought. Category D, the Hanbalis and the Shafis, they state that it nullifies the wudu whether there is lust or no lust. Okay, so this is another category. Touching with lust, yourself, or your partner, or touching without lust, both nullify the wudu. The Malikis, they state that only touching the private part with the palm of the hand. And if it's not the palm of the hand, or the top of the hand, then it wouldn't nullify your wudu. If it's the palm of the hand, then it nullifies your wudu. Category F, the lesser opinion of the Hanafis, states that touching the private part does not nullify the wudu at all. Okay? The Hanafis say you can touch the private part and it doesn't nullify the wudu as long as there is no lust and desire connected to it. The lesser opinion of Malikis and the opinion of Ibn Taymiyyah state that it only nullifies the wudu when it is touched with lust. So they kind of coincide with the Hanafis, right? Category H, there are two hadith, but they're both known to be controversial. One hadith basically says it breaks your wudu. The other hadith basically says it is just a part of the body. Right? The authenticity of these hadiths are but the scholars to rectify between the two, right? They say, inshallah ta'ala, that the person doesn't have to make wudu if it has no lust or desire. Right? So those are the categories. So now you see why things can be complex. Right?
When you were saying that washing the child, you have to go into that.
If you touch the child's private part.
Okay. So I guess like
Changing the diaper, so if you're going to clean them in the front, you clean them in the back, then in that case you have to make a wudu, inshallah. Clean wipe, more than likely to be on the same side of the bed, because you don't know if your hand has touched or not. You know what I mean? You use the clean wipe, sometimes you wipe, you pass by and your hand touches. You know what I mean? Just out there and err on the side of caution, inshallah. Anyone else on the sister side? Yes. Why not? Why not? Part of the telling we used to make wudu before going to bed. So even though there wasn't going to pray like that, just the issue of the more that we do before going to bed and going to bed, and the state of ritual purity is always good. But again, so here, I know for me when I was studying this stuff, right away I was like, Shaykh, so which one do I choose? Right? He said, that's up to you guys. Right? It's up to you to see what you feel most comfortable with, what you felt was strongest and proof, inshallah ta'ala, and then make that decision of this is what I'm going to hold on to and follow. Me personally, I take the opinion, it's part of your body, and it doesn't break your wudu, inshallah ta'ala, if it's not done with us. Right? It just makes it much easier because in many instances, you don't know what you're going to do, inshallah ta'ala. Right? So it just makes it easier, inshallah ta'ala. Number 5, things that nullify the wudu, if the skin touches the skin of a woman with lustful desires. Okay? But in the Shafi'i madhab, if a man touches a woman, just like this, or bumps into her by mistake, that breaks his wudu, he has to go get wudu. Without lustful desire. Right? In the Shafi'i madhab, if you touch a woman, you have to go get wudu. Right? So we have an ongoing joke with me and the brothers who I'm with as part of the Imam, the organization that we run. I consider myself Hanbali, this is what I study, but I take all opinions. One of the other brothers considers himself Maliki, and then the other one considers himself Shafi. So we always have the 3 different opinions. So when it comes to stuff like what you were talking about, Jose, you know, at Umrah, we always look at the Shafi and say, you ready to go make wudu a few times? Because you're going to be bumping into women left and right. You're going to be running back and forth to the bathroom. Or you're going to join us in our opinion today, inshallah ta'ala. Alhamdulillah. Depends what school of thought you want. It all depends what school of thought you take and what opinion you take, inshallah. And then in that case, right? Number 6, leaving Islam. When we leave Islam, if you come back into Islam, then naturally leaving Islam nullifies your wudu, inshallah ta'ala, and you have to make wudu if you came back into Islam doing that same thing or whatever happened, inshallah. Okay? Number 7, eating camel's meat. And this is just the Hanbali opinion. The other schools of thought, they say eating camel's meat does not break wudu. Camel meat. Yeah, so camel meat for the Hanbalis, it breaks your wudu, and then for the Maliki, Shafis, and Hanafis, they say no, it doesn't break your wudu, inshallah ta'ala. So again, for those of you who get to make Umrah, camel's meat is part of the package. You can't go there without trying camel meat, right? So then, that's always the debate. You gotta make salah, do I make wudu, do I not make wudu, right? I just eat camel's meat, right? So alhamdulillah, again, depending on what school of thought you hold on to, inshallah ta'ala. Huh? Again, based on the hadith. So again, I don't remember off the time of my mind right now. I'll give it to you, inshallah. But again, I kind of flow with the majority and say, okay, it just doesn't break me doing this kind of thing with each other. You know what I mean? Plus, it's one of those issues, you know, how often is it really counted? You know what I mean? I don't think no one in America is even counted. You know, major cameras know, but for the most part, nobody is even counted. If you're somewhere overseas and you know, involved in that all the time, I would say, okay, you have a choice to really do something. But I'll just remind you, inshallah, I'm not going to say something. Alright, so then again, in terms of touching the opposite gender, alright, the Hanbalis and the Malikis, they say this only breaks the rule touching the lust we mentioned. The lesser opinion of the Hanbalis and Hanafis and the position of the Taymiyyah, it doesn't invalidate the wudu. And again, the lesser opinion of the Shafi'is position states any touching invalidates the wudu. Okay, so those are the three opinions, inshallah. Alright? So we speak to pieces during the stuff that was mentioned, yes. And then the issue of touching, so some of the scholars that use the hadith that one night the Prophet ﷺ was praying, Qiyam al-Layl, and Aisha radiallahu anha, she was checking to see where it was the Prophet ﷺ. It was dark, we didn't have like night lights and stuff like this, right? And then she started to feel around, and she touched the 2 feet of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, inshallah ta'ala, right? She touched his 2 soles of his feet, inshallah ta'ala, while he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was saying, oh Allah, I seek refuge in thy pleasure, from thy anger, and in thy forgiveness, and from thy punishment, and I seek refuge in thee from your anger. I cannot reckon thy praise, thou art, as you have praised yourself in Sahih Muslim. This hadith is used in different scenarios, right? And when we come to the salah, the issue of when you go down to touch them, should your feet be together or should they be separate? Inshallah ta'ala. So there's a debate that some say that it should be separate, some say that it should be together, some say that Aisha, when she touched one part of her hand and the other part of her hand touched his feet, showing that the feet were separate. Some say when she touched both, and both feet were together, right? SubhanAllah. So you now get on why things become so complex, inshallah ta'ala, okay? But again, there's leniency, alhamdulillah, from the angles, inshallah ta'ala. I think we're not going to get into all of the meat and potatoes. We want to keep it as basic as possible, inshallah, and make it easy for us. Also, the other hadith in terms of the touch, it is narrated that the Prophet ﷺ, with Aisha, she narrated that the Prophet ﷺ used to kiss his wives and then pray without performing wudu. Right? He used to kiss his wife and then he would go and make salah without performing wudu, showing that they say based on this hadith, the wudu is not invalidated when I touch a woman. Right? Because he kissed his wife and then he went and made wudu. So the next is dealing with doubts regarding the wudu. Okay. Again, the principle regarding doubts, the principle of knowledge that says certainty is not negated by doubt. Certainty is not negated by doubt. Okay. So you are always going to follow what you are certain of, and you're going to lose what you are doubtful of. So now what does that mean? Let me explain this. So as I mentioned, you are making salah, you don't know, am I in the second rak'ah, or is this only my first one? The point of doubt is, the second rak'ah, the point of certainty is, I know I'm in one. So, alhamdulillah, you know what your point of certainty, that you're in one, inshallah ta'ala, and then the next one will be the second, and so forth, inshallah ta'ala. Same thing, I left my house. My point of certainty when I left my house was I made wudu before I left the house. My point of doubt is that I passed away. Why? Because I frequently pass away. But I don't remember if I passed away or not. The point of doubt here, we remove it. Why? Because I remember. If I made wudu, there's no need for me to remake wudu. But now what happens if I go into the salah and in the third rak'ah, I remember, shoot, I did pass away. You got to stop the salah, and you got to go make wudu, inshallah, right? Okay? And again, this again solves the problem for many people with OCD issues, anxiety issues, right? That you just don't have to renew wudu all the time. They say, well, Sheikh, can I be safe in doing it? Absolutely. There's nothing to stop you from remaking wudu if it's all you can, right? But you don't have to if you don't want to, as long as you have a point of certainty saying, I remember making wudu all the time. Okay? So, alhamdulillah, certainty is never negated by that. No. You start all over from the beginning. So if you pass wind, you go make wudu, you come back to the salah line, you start from rak'ah number 1. You don't pick up where you left off. That would be good. That would have been awesome, right? You start back off at 3, but start back all over. Alhamdulillah. Now we move on to Wesley. You guys need a break when you got 5 minutes, shake around. Maybe grab something with Shaltala, take a 5-minute break with Shaltala. If you guys need to use the bathroom, go ahead and use the bathroom, get something to eat, shake, you know, stand there, stretch yourself out. So we'll take a 5-minute break with